I've chosen this poem, Homeless Soul, as the introductory poem for this channel because it tells a story of where these resolution poems have come from. The nameless ache of aloneness, heaving, oozing, seeping uncontrollably through the hollowness of my homeless soul. A curdled grief cry, incarcerated and unvisited. My unwanted hook that didn't suit your eye. Was it a something or was it a nothing? A lost or not yet found? Something departed or never even started is my sentence for a moment or a lifetime. This paralyzing emptiness, the sore place of neediness, an intolerable longing for belonging, it's unbearable and inescapable. The source of my skin crawling, the cause of my head exploding. Take me somewhere, anywhere, everywhere. I only want to be nowhere and nothing. My only connection is with this dreadful suffering. And you call this healing? You've got to be kidding. I'm still breathing, breathing, breathing. I'm seeing this feeling as a darkness wallowing through the pit of my being. A discarded swampland surrounded by barbed wire, landmines and no entry signs. This desolate place I've been avoiding with all of my might. I allow my eyes to adjust to the light and catch an unexpected sight. I gather my spine, and as I start approaching, the barriers are falling and the internal noise is fading. Up ahead, in the clearing, a little boy, playing with his puppy, dancing barefoot and happily getting mucky. He takes me in with eyes of wonder. He doesn't see the monster. He's happy to see me. In fact, he wants to be me. It's time for us to join up and play together. The swampland isn't a putrid place. It's full of life and it's been keeping him safe. A magical space, a source of creativity where you find music and stories and pictures and poetry. I should thank you for the gift of your rejection that brought me the opportunity for this resurrection and introduced me to my compassionate imagination, a new strength I'm connecting with, the home in my soul where freedom lives. In the poem, I'm expressing the experience of emotional pain as I experienced it, and putting this feeling into words, this nameless ache of aloneness. And the work that I have been through, the healing work that I have been through, is about turning towards this emotional pain and connecting with it. For me, this pain had been trapped in me from childhood. This pain that I had turned away from and excluded. I talk about the curdled grief cry that is incarcerated and unvisited. There's one thing being incarcerated, it's another thing entirely being unvisited. And yet this is what we do to parts of ourselves. We close them off, we deny them, and we just don't go there because it's painful. And when we do that, we exclude ourselves from so much more than just the pain. Through this work, I discovered a creative child who I had thought was not good enough. And so my work is about getting back in touch with that part of myself. And when I was writing this poem, many times the decisions I make are not conscious about the poem. And in this particular poem, I saw a little boy playing and dancing barefoot with his puppy and happily getting mucky. I'm not sure why this was a little boy in this poem. Many of the other poems talk about little girls, but it's essentially about this childlike innocence, this unbreakable place that's within us, within all of us, I believe. So turning towards this, of what it feels like, it's unbearable, this feeling of emotional pain. And the challenge here is that once we turn towards it, it feels uncontrollable, this paralysing emptiness that oozes through us and overtakes us. And it's unpredictable. We don't know how long it's going to last or if we're going to be able to cope with it. But we can. And in turning towards the pain, we do so with our breath. And this is the turning point in the poem where I realise I'm still breathing. And I'm breathing into the pain. And no matter how much pain, physical or emotional, we're feeling, we are still breathing. And the breath is continuous. And the breath happens without us even knowing about it. When we turn towards it, it can really help us into the experience of this pain. And when I entered into the experience of pain, it started to transform. I started to see it. And I describe that in this poem as this darkness wallowing through the pit of my being and coming up against these barriers that I had created inside of me. And the resolution poems, the theme of the resolution poems is about dissolving our internal barriers and resolving our internal conflicts so that we can discover at the source of us this power that doesn't need a wall. And the power I'm talking about here is the power of vulnerability, the power of childlike innocence, this magical space, the source of music and stories and pictures and poetry. And the other strength is recognising how this rejection that has brought on this uncontrollable emotional pain is a gift. So the gift of the rejection has made this uncontrollable emotional pain undeniable. It's brought it to the surface so they can't ignore it. And when we can see the experience of emotional pain as a strength and as a source of creativity, and the experience of rejection as a route to that, then that is a real power and a real strength that really nobody can interfere with. And the theme of this poetry is about connecting with that. Sometimes the poems will be reassuring and comforting. Sometimes they'll be challenging. Sometimes the poetry is disturbing, but isn't that the experience of healing? This unpredictable experience of healing. So I hope that you will enjoy this work. You know what to do. Like the poems, subscribe to the channel. Please share the work if you think the work is worth it. If you know somebody who you think may benefit from hearing about these internal strengths that we all have, this compassionate imagination and this source of creativity at the root of us, please share it with them. So I'm really looking forward to bringing this work to you and to welcoming you onto this journey with me.